Because what if I just don't like reading anymore? I'm in the thick of probably the worst reading slump I've ever been in. These are all of the books that I've started and haven't finished. I have not finished a book in 10 days, which I feel like for some people is not that bad, but for me, I read every single day. So I typically am finishing books like all the time. I just haven't been connecting to things, like I haven't wanted to read. It's honestly the weirdest thing. And you can see I'm like a decent way through at least 2 of these books. I don't know what's going on, but in this video, we are gonna get out of this reading slump. The last book I finished was Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. I did start the third book. Well, it depends how you read the series, but this is the one after Throne of Glass. And I do want to pick this up maybe in this video, but I'm actually just gonna put all of these books to the side. These are the books, by the way, because I want to start with step number 1. I'm gonna like hopefully give you guys tips as I go, because I'm hoping I'm going to learn things along the way. But the first thing I want to do is pick up something that's easy and something that I know I can finish really quickly, because for me, finishing a book makes me feel accomplished. It gives me that dopamine hit to like mark it as read on Goodreads, give my thoughts. Like I just want that feeling of accomplishment. I feel like that really is one of the biggest things that will get me back into reading. So the first book I'm going to pick up is Heartstopper. This is a graphic novel, which is going to be so much easier to read. I think I'm going to absolutely fly through this. It has obviously images and text. It's also YA, so hopefully just like really easy to get through. I'm hoping I'll enjoy it. I'll feel connected. There's also a TV show that I can watch, which I feel like gives me vested interest in like finishing this. So I have a goal outside of just reading, which again, for a slump, I feel like being rewarded with the TV show gives me motivation to actually pick this up. I feel like this is a really good place to start. My microphone died the second that I finished this book, but what I was saying was that I cannot believe that the book ended that way. Like, I was not expecting that to happen. In fact, I find that very cruel, because now I don't have the second one and I'm dying to know what comes next. So I will be purchasing the rest of these. I thought this was so good, especially for what it was. Like, I've never really read a comic before or just anything like this. I thought the story was so sweet. It was definitely like the perfect mix of cute, heartwarming, but also really emotional at times. I think the topics that this explores are so important, especially because I believe this is a YA. There was a lot of swearing for it to be a YA. This kind of story which explores like coming out and being attracted to another guy in a private boys' school. Like, I just think that's really important, and I thought it was done so well. This is a 4-star from me. I was like, I don't know how to rate this book, but this is a 4-star. I think it's so good. Definitely different to reading a novel, but so much fun. And if you're in a reading slump, this was actually the perfect way to get back into it. Now what I'm gonna do is do my next kind of like hack, I guess, which is what I actually always do when I'm in a slump, and that is pick up a thriller. I just read thrillers so fast. I actually was recommended a thriller by my friend Lucy recently, and I want to remember what it was. I can't remember. Okay, the book is called Twisted Truth by Ava Strong, and I think I'm just going to read this on my Kindle, which is kind of like another hack. Kindles have a lot more ease, and so when I'm not in the mood to read, I read a lot more when I'm on my Kindle. Even just like, you can read in the dark, you can read in the bath, all things I'm probably going to do this evening. I'm going to download this book. What my friend Lucy said about it was it was really short. I think it's like 200 pages, I'm not sure. smashed my face with my AirPod, like, giant headphones because these things are so heavy. Oh my god, I'm actually low-key nervous I'm gonna have like a bruise on my face. Anyway, I have been honestly sitting down reading for like an hour. I'm on page 22 because I keep scrolling on my phone, staring up at the ceiling. Like, it's not this book. This book's actually a really cool concept. Like, it's moving fast. I just don't want to read. I don't want to read. So I feel like I'm actually just gonna call it for today because while I do want to get out of my reading slump, I don't want to like force myself to read and then resent it. So I'm gonna pick this up probably before bed, which will be nice to like read it at night time. It's a thriller, it's a little bit spooky, but I am gonna just rot. Hi friends, it's obviously much later now. I did end up picking up this book again. I just had like a cozy little bath, read this book. I'm now 30% of the way through. It really is very quick. So our main protagonist is called Amy Rush, and when she was younger, the book kind of starts with a scene with her and her dad. They are out hiking in the wilderness because her dad works for like the Parks and Wildlife Department. I can't remember what it's called, but he's like a warden or a sheriff, I can't remember. So he's pretty high up, loves his job, and an incident happens when they're out hiking. And then we fast forward to the present timeline where Amy's kind of stepped into her dad's shoes. So I'm really bad at the job titles. I feel like she's also a warden. Basically, there is a murder. There are 2 dead bodies that are found in this park or like wildlife area where she works. I guess it's like a national park. And so she, for whatever reason, is now like investigating into these murders. She's like kind of low-key being a detective. So that's the current story. That's what's happening. She's like just got to the crime scene. She's doing some investigating. There's a few like suspicious people already involved in the story. So we're just kind of figuring that out. I will say it's definitely moving fast. The book is like not long enough for it not to move fast. It's 144 pages. So I feel like it's definitely like an easy, quick read. However, I'm not like enjoying it very much, and I don't think it is just because I'm in a book slump. I'm not loving the writing. I think it's also just, I feel like there are plot holes. Like, why is this random like parks person investigating a murder? Like, I don't know, it's set in the US, so maybe things are different there, but like where I live, the police do that. Like, that's fully a police thing. So it's very confusing that they're trusting this random sheriff, warden, whatever she is, of this park to go and investigate these suspects. Like, I don't know.
I feel like I have to add here that an FBI agent actually gets flown in to help her, and when he arrives, she literally goes, "I'm leading this investigation." In what world would a park ranger be leading an investigation and then an FBI agent, who by the way wears sunglasses, a suit and a tie, like of course he fucking does, in what world would he let that happen?
For me, that's not super realistic. Maybe I just don't understand like the US park system, but I feel like that's a bit random. Also, just the writing is like, you don't have to be like super descriptive or whatever when you're writing a thriller or a crime. Like, I do think they're written very differently, but something about the writing in this book is quite amateur. Like, it feels very amateur to me. And one more thing that pisses me off quickly, the main girl Amy has already assumed that the killer is a guy based on no evidence. Like, she keeps talking to these crime scene investigators, like her partner who's on the case with her. Like, whenever she speaks about the killer, she's like, I wonder what murder weapon he used. I wonder what his motive is. And I'm like, your whole job as an investigator is to be unbiased, babe. Why are you assuming it's a man? Like, maybe it will be, but I feel like that's very unprofessional. Like, you already have a bias in your head. So that's annoying me as well. I'm gonna keep reading and I will check in the morning. I think I'm definitely gonna finish this book tomorrow because it's so quick. You guys, the author has had like heaps of typos, which I've been trying to overlook. The author just got 2 characters mixed up. This chapter is told from Sarah's perspective. I don't know who Sarah is yet. This is the first time hearing from her. It says, Sarah slung the straps hastily over her shoulders. She had what she'd come for. Pulling the pack tight against her back, Amy started hiking rapidly back through the forest. Things like that are really taking me out of the story, unfortunately. I just don't get the impression, and I'm sorry if this is brutal and this is not meant to offend the author in any way, not that they're gonna watch this video, but I just don't get the impression that this was like particularly edited because of the amount of typos and stuff. It's just not giving editor energy. Page 100, so I'm about to finish this book hopefully soon. I'm 71% through and there's what, 46 pages left, so hopefully in under an hour I will be done. Final 20 pages. Did you guys hear that yawn? Big yawn. I'm gonna say a slight spoiler, so it's like won't ruin the story at all, but if you want to read this book, then just skip to the time that I'll put here on the screen. I'll give you a second to get off, to click off, to skip forward. Okay, so everything's been done, the crime's been solved, blah blah blah, and it's kind of like the aftermath. They are now gonna establish a wilderness homicide investigation team. I'm honestly just so confused because, like, is there a need for that? It's under the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Like, I just don't believe this. That's what the police are for. That's why you have detectives. I just can't imagine that the Department of Fish and Wildlife is gonna need a homicide team. I don't know if I'm crazy or if I'm just being skeptical, but anyways, okay, spoilers are over. I'm gonna finish this book. I have literally 13 pages left. I am so sorry, Lucy, if you're watching this video, because I hate when someone recommends you a book and then you just don't vibe with it, but it's just personal preference. But I just didn't believe anything about this book, you guys. I've already kind of said everything. The typos took me out of it. The fact that a park ranger solves a double homicide, I literally asked ChatGPT about it. I'll put up what he said on the screen. But like, I'm all for make-believe, like it's obviously fiction, so it doesn't have to be real, but if you are writing a crime story like this, it needs to be believable, and there was just so much in this that wasn't believable. Also, everybody kept talking about the ending, but there was not a single plot twist in this book. Like, the second that you're introduced to the murderer's perspective, you know exactly what it is, like you know what's gonna happen. I'm so confused, honestly, and unfortunately this obviously did nothing to help my reading slump. Maybe I'm being more brutal because of the slump, but I don't think I would have enjoyed this anyway. I gave this a 1 star, unfortunately. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I'm gonna read next because part of me wants to read another thriller because I didn't like this one, but then another part of me is like, just start like a romance or something that's gonna be easy that I'm gonna get through, but guys, what if I just don't like reading anymore? No, that's not gonna happen. I wanted to say quickly though, with this book, the length of it really helped, and reading it on a Kindle really helped. So I guess my tip is read a short book and read on your Kindle if you have one. It definitely helped me to like not physically hold a book, not see the amount of pages I have left, like just enjoy reading. And the length was also great because I obviously ticked this book off in probably like 2.5 hours total reading time, but it took me like a day to actually read it because I didn't want to pick a book up. Anyways, I am going to think about what I want to read next. I actually want to keep reading because I have the time. It's 5 to 6 p.m. The fact that I want to read is a good sign. I just really need a good book that's gonna like get me back into it. I'm going through Goodreads and somebody said, this book is in serious need of an editor. The missing words, lack of proper capitalization, and various other errors made it very annoying to read. As for the plot, well, you've heard it all before. Mic drop. I love going through Goodreads and feeling validated. Hi friends, it's literally been like 5 minutes, but I have changed outfits because I'm about to leave the apartment. But I think I'm gonna pick up The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. A, because I really want a romance. I find them really easy to read. Most of the time I find them fun, but also sometimes I hate romances, so it really depends on like the book, the quality of writing, etc. But the main reason is this is actually my Fable book club pick for the month of September, and because I'm in such a slump, it's literally like the last week of September as I'm filming this and I haven't read it yet, and I am in fact the creator of the Fable book club. So I feel like I need to read it. Otherwise, I'm setting a terrible example. I think I'm going to enjoy this book from everything that it says on the back. I believe it's like fake dating between a famous actor and his elite bodyguard, whose name is Hannah. And I love fake dating. I love when emotions are brewing and the tension is building and it takes basically the whole book for them to finally get together. I hope that's what this book is like. So I'm excited. I am excited for this book. It's also 300 pages. So like I could realistically read this in like 2 sittings. I won't. I'm sure I won't. I'm sure this will take me days because I apparently hate reading. Also, I quickly want to say, because a lot of people have been telling me that like because reading is my hobby but it's also my job, that like I need to make sure I'm taking time away from it. But the thing is, I read so much more outside of filming than I do when I'm filming. Like I obviously film some things like me reading for reading vlogs and stuff, but I read way more in my own spare time. So it's not that. I just love reading and I want to find that love again because I just like don't feel it right now. Let's get into The Bodyguard. I've been wanting to read this for a long time, so I'm excited that it's finally happening. And the last thing I will say is that it has a foreword, or whatever this is called, a little quote from my bitch, my main bitch, Emily Henry. And she said, my perfect 10 of a book. If it's good enough for her, it's got to be good enough for me. I like this already. Yay! Thank God. Hi friends, if I'm in the exact same position as the last clip, mind your own damn business. I'm so sorry to be so brutal, but I actually just like need to be on the couch right now because I just had a very hectic day at work, a lot of things going on at work, as if I don't work for myself, but it was a stressful day. So I've been looking forward to this all day, and that is the sign that I feel like I'm slowly emerging out of my reading slump, because I have genuinely been thinking about this book. I know, who is she? And I haven't been excited about a book like this since Throne of Glass. I don't know, like I really am the kind of person who looks forward to reading every single day. Like it really is my escape. So the fact that I haven't been feeling that way has been stressing me out. Esme cannot make up her mind. She's honestly been so chaotic, and same. Anyways, I got 75 pages into this book from not a lot of reading, so it's definitely flying by, but I know a little bit more about it. So I thought I would tell you what is going on. So our main character, Hannah, is a bodyguard, but when you think of a bodyguard, you think of this like big, huge person, usually a guy, right? She is a small, skinty woman, but she is the kind of bodyguard where like she preempts everything bad that could happen, so it's not even going to get to the point where she needs to physically protect her clients. However, she can physically protect her clients, as she's just proven. I think she does jujitsu, if I'm not mistaken, and she's basically a badass. I'm already in love with this woman. Like, she's so funny and so relatable. So the book starts with a breakup, and she's like dying to be sent on an overseas contract because a lot of her bodyguard contracts are overseas for very rich clients. But she basically gets a contract in her hometown of Houston, Texas, and the client happens to be a very, very famous male actor whose name is Jack. I'm so bad with book names. She is pissed off that she can't go overseas, and Jack is not necessarily expecting a bodyguard to show up at his house. So they both kind of start their relationship on the wrong foot, but I'm loving this already. Like, I really am loving it. I love their dynamic. I love, like I said, our female main character, and I love her job. Like, I've never read any book like this. It's weirdly reminding me of Miss Congeniality, even though the plots are nothing similar at all, but just the fact that there's like this badass like female main character who's really strong and does all of this like techie data stuff. If you guys haven't seen Miss Congeniality, it's about a policewoman that goes undercover into like a pageant. Anyways, it just kind of is giving those vibes. It's giving like early 2010s or 2000s rom-com, which is my favorite genre of movies. So safe to say I'm loving this. I'm flying through it. I would love to finish this tonight, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. But I'm not gonna rush it. I'm gonna keep enjoying it. I'm definitely on the right track to coming out of my slump with a book like this. But now I'm already stressing about what I'm gonna read next, because what if this puts me in a slump? Oh my God. Do you know what? One step at a time. Let's keep reading. I've literally read 3 pages and I'm already giggling, but this is not a spoiler what I'm about to say because it's on the back of the book, but there's fake dating involved, and he just asked if he could like hold her hand, put his arm around her shoulder, like in the context of the place where they're fake dating, and I'm just like, oh, she's funny. I've been reading on my Kindle just so that I can lie on my side and be comfortable, but this is where I'm up to in the physical book. This is flying by, as you can tell. Same location, same day. I've literally been reading for like an hour. I feel like I'm gonna finish this book tonight. It's so good. Like, I completely understand the hype behind this book. I understand why people say it's one of their favorite romance books of all time. It really does feel like a classic rom-com. Like, I've laughed, I've cried. I love this man. I love Jack. Also, we have had no physicality yet, and like, as I talk about all the time, I'm not anti-smut. It's just like not for me personally, and I love a book when the characters just have so much time to like warm up to each other, build tension. Like, it's just so good. Also, something interesting about this book is it's only told from Hannah's perspective, and I feel like nowadays most romance books are written from like both people's perspectives, so we get the guy. But for me, the fact that we don't know what Jack is thinking or feeling is actually a lot more powerful, because my little brain can kind of try and understand and assume like what he's thinking, and I love that. I love when a book lets you imagine and like create your own kind of story. So I'm absolutely loving this book so much. I have less than 100 pages left, so I'm just gonna keep on reading, but I just had to come and update you that I'm loving it. I don't have anything else to say. Like, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's just like, it's really good. I definitely get the hype. Hi friends, so I finished this book 5 days ago, so I'm not gonna lie, I've actually like basically forgotten all of my thoughts, but I did love this book. I gave this a 4-star, which feels very fitting. It was really fun, so enjoyable to read, like genuinely just a sunshine in a book. The banter was great. I really liked both of the characters. I also loved that the female was the bodyguard. I just think that's really cool and such an interesting job to read about. I wouldn't say there was anything that was like super groundbreaking or even like particularly memorable about this book, but it still just, it felt like a classic rom-com in the way that not a lot of books manage to do. Like, when you read this, you're picturing it as a movie. Like, I would not be surprised if, is this already a movie? I feel like it's not already a movie, or I would have heard of it, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was going to be a movie really soon. It reminded me of like The Proposal energy, because you've got a bit of fake dating in there. You've got like that badass kind of workaholic woman, like just a really, really fun read. However, it did not pull me out of my slump. I kind of thought it was going to, but then, like I said, I read this, like I finished this 5 days ago. I have picked up a book in the meantime. So I think maybe 2 days ago, so 3 days after I finished The Bodyguard, I wanted another
romance rom-com vibe. So I ended up choosing Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, which if you guys are on BookTube a lot, you would have heard about this book. It's like a cult favorite. People say this is one of the best rom-coms of all time. It's their favorite romance. It's a YA romance. It's set in high school. I read 28 pages of this book and it just wasn't what I was feeling. So I picked that up, like I said, I think about 2 days ago. And then yesterday I decided I was in the mood for fantasy. And I actually just filmed my October TBR a few days ago and this is on it. So I decided to give Powerless by Lauren Roberts a go. One of you guys actually left a comment on my TBR video saying if I was in a slump, you thought Powerless would be perfect because it's easy to read, the romance is good, and it's fast paced. So even though I am skeptical of this book because I feel like the more I read romantasy, the more I realize I probably prefer the fantasy side of romantasy. I feel like the romance in romantasy can be quite cringe or like just very sexual, but I believe this maybe is a YA. I haven't looked that up. I have actually no information to base that off of. I just have the vibe that this might be a YA. I don't know anything about this book. I am literally going in so blind. The only thing I know is that there are trials in the same way that like the Hunger Games has trials, and I love trials in a fantasy book. So I think I'm like 25 pages in to this book. I am enjoying it so far. The writing is a lot better than I thought it was going to be, just based on like, I feel like you either love this book or you hate it. And because I typically don't love, I don't know why, I just have a feeling I wouldn't love this. I was really taken aback by the writing. I thought it was actually really strong. Really enjoying it so far. We're just following our main character, Peyton, who is normal, like ordinary, I think is what it's called. And in this world, it seems like people have powers. I don't really know what kind of powers they have, but there's like the elites who seem to have the powers and then the ordinaries who don't. And it seems like the ordinaries have been pushed out and are often like homeless, or I think a lot of them died as well during this plague, this mysterious plague that I don't know about. But that's our female main character who we've just met. And then I've literally just read one chapter from the male main character's perspective. His name is Kai. He is an elite. He's like training right now for the trials and he is a bit of a girl boss. He seems to be able to like take other people's powers and use them for himself. So he's definitely not ordinary. And I feel like she's going to go into these trials, I'm guessing, just based on the fact that there's a whole 500 pages left. That's all I know. Poorly explained, but I'm actually into it. Like, I definitely want to read it. It's also like the most beautiful afternoon outside. I'm in shorts for the first time in a long time. Got the Peggies out. So I'm going to sit here with my beautiful kitty and do some reading. And I'm excited. I want to try and get like a good, like 100 pages in today would be like my goal, because I just really want to feel something. Like, I'm ready. So I feel like I have a good feeling about this book. Like, I think I'm going to enjoy it for what it is. So pray for me. Two things I'm doing right now to help me read properly and not get distracted is, one, my phone is on do not disturb. I am closing her because, as we've seen throughout this video, I keep getting distracted by notifications. So I'm going to try and have it 1 hour of uninterrupted reading time to start. And secondly, I have an app on my phone called Bookly where you can like put in a book that you're reading and you can like have a cute little timer and you can track your pages. And like, I don't know what it is about this. It just makes me like not get so distracted. You can also like do rain sounds, things like that.
Please ignore my appearance. I'm in the same shirt as yesterday. My hair is so greasy, but I'm actually feeling really sick today. I'm just a bit run down, but anyways, this is like the world's longest reading vlog. Surely by this point, this video is so long, but it's the next day. I read Powerless. Yesterday, I actually ended up getting 109 pages in, and I have to say, maybe because my expectations were so low, because this book is like so hyped. I know it's like a YA-ish kind of book. I know she's like a TikTok author. I just had really low expectations, but I'm actually enjoying this, which I'm so happy about. It reminds me of like the Fourth Wing energy, where when I was reading Fourth Wing, I was aware that it wasn't like, it's not winning any awards, but it's just so fun. And this book feels the exact same. Like, I'm just having so much fun reading this, which at the end of the day, the point of reading is to have fun, to enjoy yourself. And I'm just so immersed in this world. Like, I'm so happy about it and so pleasantly surprised. I probably explained this pretty badly yesterday, but our main character Peyton, I think that's how you say her name, she is like an ordinary, but she's pretending to be a psychic, which in this world there's like elites which have really strong powers. You could be super strong, you could like wield fire. I'm yet to learn properly about all of the powers, but really strong powers. And then there's mundanes, who are people who have powers, but they're a bit more boring. And then there's ordinaries, who are people who don't have any powers. Peyton is an ordinary. She doesn't have any powers, but she's pretending to be a mundane. So she has like basic powers, and she pretends to be psychic. And the way that she like gets around it is she's really observant. So she might notice things about people that other people don't notice. And then in her smart little brain, she'll put two and two together and can kind of like pretend to be a psychic. She has a run-in with a main male character whose name is Kai. He is a prince, I believe. He's like the king's son, and he is ultra talented. He has like all the powers. And then he has a brother called Kit, a half brother, who is in line to be the heir. And every year there's this thing called the purging trials, which that's literally a rip-off of Hunger Games basically. But these strong young people who have powers typically get put in the purging trials, and there's like one victor, and I don't know what they win, but I feel like it's like eternal glory, kind of like the Hunger Games. You just like become really strong. The difference, I guess, between it and the Hunger Games is I don't think everybody who goes in dies, but it is known to be quite violent. And basically, this is not a spoiler because it's on the back of the book, but our main character, Peyton, does a little something something, and she ends up accidentally, like against her will, entering into the purging trials. And so I'm at the part now where she's just gotten to the castle. She's just met all of the other people who are also in the purging trials, and I'm excited. It's like one trial every week. They all stay in the palace. They all have to like train together and, I don't know, get to know each other. There's like a ball, there's dinners. So it's really cool. I'm into it. That's the other thing. The main male character, Kai, his whole thing is to like capture ordinaries and basically dispose of them, because in this world it's illegal to be ordinary. I think that's right. Yeah, it's illegal to be ordinary. And because of his crazy power, he can like sense when people are ordinary. So he kind of is onto her a little bit, but like has chosen to keep her alive. So that's the vibe. And it's super easy to read, pretty fast paced. Everybody talks about the banter of this book. So far, I'm not blown away by the banter, but I'm hoping that as they get more involved and closer together, the banter will be better. But anyways, loving it so far, really having a great time. Definitely, this is the first book. I would say The Bodyguard was a little bit like this, but this is properly the first book where I'm like excited to read it. I'm like choosing to read it over doing other things. Even now, I feel really sick, but like I want to read. Whereas normally, like if you'd asked me a week ago, I would have just like absolutely chosen to watch TV instead. So that's a very good sign, but I'm gonna stop yapping and keep reading, and I'll update you guys maybe when I'm like halfway through the book. Happy Friday, friends. It's a few days later. I've had the most intense few days. I have been so emotional and so run down. So I haven't been reading that much, but yesterday I actually took myself on a little reading date. I went to a pub, got a glass of wine, sat on the rooftop and just like read, and it was so lovely. It's one of my favorite ways to spend time with myself and do something nice for myself. So I am officially now 52% of the way through this book, because I'm also reading on my Kindle, which tells me the percentage. So when I first spoke to you guys about this book, I was like, I am in it. I love the concept. I think the writing strong, like all of these things, and I stand by that. The initial like setup for this story is really cool. I like our main character, I like the world, I like the powers, I like this idea of like a class system where the ordinaries aren't allowed to exist, and I like the idea of the purging trials. We're now in the purging trials, and firstly, there is no debate about this. I don't think this is 100% the Hunger Games rewritten. Really, the only difference is that people in this world have powers, whereas in the Hunger Games it's obviously like about physical strength rather than power, like fantastical strength. There are so many similarities, it's pretty hard to look past, even down to like there's this they do interviews before the purging trials, which is the same in the Hunger Games. You know that guy, what's his name? Caesar. His name is Caesar something, I can't remember. He has like bright blue hair in this book. There's an interviewer who has, I think, also bright blue hair. Like there's so many random bits that I feel like she's just low-key stolen from even the Hunger Games, the purging trials. Like there's a lot about it. It's also like a response to the rebellion. Like there's a lot of stuff that's very, very similar, but I am able to look past that because I feel like a lot of elements of fantasy books are borrowed from each other. There's a lot of stories that are pretty similar, but I will say there's not anything unique in this book that I've read. Even like the fact that she's this kind of not undercover assassin, but she's like this baddie who like steals to feed her and her best friend. I feel like I just read a book that was very similar to that. I am enjoying this. However, once they got into the actual purging trials, I feel like it just switched into a romance, which unfortunately is what a lot of romanticies seem to do. I had this exact problem with When the Moon Hatched, and I am not anti-romance. I like romance. I just think that it needs to be done well, and I find if you're gonna write a fantasy, please like make the romance a subplot. Don't just like set up this amazing cool fantasy world that I'm like really into and I'm super keen for, and then just like switch it to a romance. For me, it really just, it doesn't make sense. And also with these two characters, I feel like people are obsessed with their relationship. So like everything I say here is just my opinion. We all have different tastes, but I don't understand when they started liking each other. They don't know anything about each other, and yet they have this like pull. And normally I can handle that, but for some reason in this book, I just don't believe it. Like I don't believe anything about this romance. He's like really obsessed with her. She just asked him what his favorite color was, and he looks into her eyes and he then says his favorite color is blue because that's the color of her eyes. And that was a quote that I've seen from this book and everybody's obsessed with it, but I cringed so deeply. He also, oh my god, he keeps calling her like vicious little thing. I actually would jump off a bridge if somebody, I have a threshold for these things. We all have different like cringe meters, but yeah, there's a lot in this book that I just find myself going, ugh, and I have to take a breather, and then I pick the book back up and then I read for 5 minutes and then I'm like, ugh. I had a feeling that this would happen with this book, but I am surprised that the writing is better than I was expecting, and it's super easy to get through. Like I appreciate that this is a book that's perfect for a book slump because you want to read it, you're like invested and stuff. But yeah, I'm just just the romance. I really need to start reading regular fantasy. Like I'm gonna buy some Brandon Sanderson books because I just don't think I like romantasy. I don't think it's for me. I feel like the romance is always forced. They always force this enemies to lovers that I just don't believe. Like, when did you stop hating each other and start loving each other? Like, I just don't fucking get it. And this is coming from somebody who loved Twilight. I loved the Hunger Games. Like, I'm not against this vibe of novel. And I loved Fourth Wing, and you could argue that that is like cringe as well, but I did cringe during that book. But yeah, I think just with Fourth Wing, I know this is a random comparison, but I just feel like with Fourth Wing, the fantasy elements were pretty heavy. Like definitely there was romance, but I feel like it wasn't as heavy. Like this just switched so quickly. Anyways, I don't know. I'm gonna keep reading. I'm really hoping to finish this book soon because I would love to just get her done. I'm gonna work on a new like YouTube banner. I know that's so random, but I'm going to actually listen to the audiobook. I will say the guy who narrates the audiobook, which I listen to all of my, I don't even know what my phone is. Whenever I find my phone, I listen to all my audiobooks on Spotify because I pay for Spotify Premium and it's literally like books are included. The guy who plays Kai in the audiobook, he does have a hot voice. I won't lie. He does have a hot voice. So I'm gonna listen to that. Where the fuck is my phone? All right, I finally found my phone. So I'm gonna listen to the audiobook and do a little bit of work. This camera has no battery, so I'm gonna try and keep this quick, but it's the next day and I finished Powerless. I honestly went through every emotion possible when reading this book. I was loving it, then I was like not loving it, got the ick with it, then I got really into it again. There was like sad moments, there were intense moments, there were really cringe moments. Like I really feel like I experienced the full spectrum. At the like 50% mark, the romance was really heavy and I was like, fuck, this is just gonna be romance for the rest of the book. But actually it wasn't. It definitely was more, not even fantastical, because it's not that fantastical, this world. It feels very much just like regular people with like superpowers basically, but the plot picked up a lot in the second half of the book, which I really enjoyed. I will say that the way that the booktube people describe the novella, which is the book that comes after this, really spoiled one part of the ending for this book, just because like you can piece two and two together, I think, on what happens at the end of this book. But there was another element at the end of this book which was definitely twisty. My one major criticism though of this book is I swear to God, if this author says ocean eyes one more time, like we get it, she has blue eyes. Overall, I enjoyed my time reading this. I definitely had that lull in the middle, so I think I'm gonna land on a 3-star for this book. Definitely a book I would recommend for a specific mood. It kind of does feel like that Fourth Wing energy of like, you just want to be thrown into a world, you want a bit of romance, you want a bit of action. Like it really did have everything. It was easy to understand, really palatable. Like it definitely wasn't bad. I won't be thinking about it, and I don't think I'm gonna continue with the rest of the series. So I finished this today, which felt really good to finish. And then I actually started The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I was putting Powerless back on my shelf and I was like, sometimes I'll just pick out my next read straight away. And I wanted to just read the first page of this book just to see if it was the book I wanted to read next. And I got sucked in and ended up reading to chapter 3 or chapter 4, only 15 pages in, but I am obsessed with this book already. The writing feels actually very much like Frederick Buckman's writing. If you guys have read any of his books, you'll know what I mean. It's very funny. It's very simple language, but like so well articulated. I just am loving this already. If you guys don't know what this book is about, it is, from my understanding, about a group of elderly people in an aged care home, and they have a thing called the Thursday Murder Club where they try to solve like a murder, and then one day a brutal killing takes place on their very doorstep, and they find that they get entangled in a real murder case. And I just love that concept, and I have to say, so funny so far. I've literally giggled out loud at least 3 times, and I'm 15 or so pages in. So I'm gonna pick this book up over the next few days. I will say, after finishing this, I definitely feel excited to read again. So I don't know if we can contribute this to fully pulling me out of my reading slump, but it definitely helped, because I just read for like 3 hours finishing this book, and then I jumped straight into this, and I'm like excited to read before bed tonight, excited to spend my Sunday tomorrow reading. So I think we're slowly coming out of the woods, which I am very happy about. Turns out I don't hate reading. I just was being dramatic, which we all knew. Okay friends, I ended up finishing The Thursday Murder Club yesterday. I really enjoyed this book. I will say, I think it was packaged wrong. Like, this is not really a whodunit. This is not really a thriller. This is the closest thing I've found to Frederick Buckman, where you just love these characters, they pull on your heartstrings, you're rooting for them, and of course you find out what happens with the murder / the murders, and it's really, really cool and interesting. I will say, It didn't blow me away. Like, nothing about this was exceptional, but I loved the writing. I thought this was so funny and so much wisdom. Here's just an example of like a funny, something that made me laugh. This woman, Elizabeth, who's one of our main characters, is speaking and she's talking to a police officer and she says, "Either you arrest us, which we would all understand, and Joyce, in fact, I think would actually enjoy." "No comment," says Joyce, nodding happily. Those little elements really paint these elderly characters in the funniest light. They really just give no fucks because they're old. They just don't care anymore. And so they're really cheeky, but they really bond with people in a way that I think those of us who do care more about what people think wouldn't. And so it's a really beautiful story. But yeah, like I said, nothing groundbreaking or particularly crazy. I do think I would consider continuing the series, but I wish this was pitched more as like just a literary fiction with a bit of a like mystery. It's almost like a cozy mystery. There's really no suspense in this. Like, I could have read this book and not found out who did it and not really have cared, but these characters will stay with me for a long time, I think. I loved them. I loved their relationships with the police officers and it just was great. So I really liked this. I think I'm gonna land on a 4-star for this book. Immediately after I finished this book last night, I started The Tattooist of Auschwitz and I'm in. Like, I'm so in. This book is amazing so far. I think I'm gonna literally go and sit on the couch and binge this today. And I think that is the sign that I don't know if I'm 100% out of my reading slump, to be completely honest, but I think I'm like 90% there, because like the old me a week or two ago would have finished this book and just like started a new Netflix show, not thought about reading. But the second I finished this, I was like, okay, I can't wait to pick this up. So I'm back to reading. I'm reading like 100 pages a day, which is kind of what I used to. So I think I'm out of it. I think I just really need to find like a book that's really gonna stick with me and give me that 5-star feeling. And then I think I'm gonna be actually back. If you guys have any books that have like solely gotten you out of a reading slump, please send them across. I will read anything. At this point, I actually will read anything. So fair game, like give me your just 5-6-star recommendations. If you have watched my videos and you know what you think I would like, feel free to give me a personalized one, but just any book that you've loved, I want to read it. At the end of this year, I'm ready to just hit 5-star. Like, I want to feel something. So if you have any tips, please let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for coming along with me, coming out of my reading slump with me. Couldn't have done it without you, quite honestly, because filming this gave me accountability. Thank you so much. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week with a new video. Bye.